This is the cream of the crop.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the final episode of what's going to be covering the Resident Evil Netflix series. Yesterday, we touched on the fact that just after uploading all of my summaries and reviews, they canceled it after one season. I also talked about the 5 things I thought they did pretty badly, that I thought were the worst in this first season and the only season of this show. Today, though, I am going to talk about the 5 things I really thought they did well, that they got pretty right, and that me, even as a diehard, game and book Resident Evil fan, I understood there's going to be artistic interpretation, but I still thought they did these things incredibly well and incredibly right. So let us start right off the rip. I really thought that they did the joy pill, the threat of the T-virus, justice. They talked about an absurd number of pills you'd have to take. I think it was like 20,000 or so for you to be infected with the T-virus. But we could see that already Simon's mother was having adverse effects when all she was doing was supposed to be taking it recreationally. She didn't know she was taking it recreationally because, Evelyn was basically drugging her, but it was to level out her mood, make her marriage better. It was supposed to basically do the things it was supposed to do. Kind of cure your depression, make you a happier, better, easier person to be around. They were going to market it toward kids. They were going to market it toward adults. But they did such a good job, especially on the back of Albert Wesker's character, talking about how dangerous having even a minute trace of the T-virus was in anything. I thought it was really well done. He tried to strike fear in your heart, not physically. He tried to strike fear in your heart of the unknown, of what could happen. And I think that's what you have to do with something like the T-virus. Next up on my list of 5 things they did correctly, it was Billy. I think they fleshed Billy out and gave her so much more depth, so much more vulnerability, and so much more cheerability than Jade. You saw her as a young girl. You hear about her troubled past, having a temper, having to get counseling, having basically the therapy dog, and all of that. So you start to already feel sympathy for her. You start to really garner this, I really hope Billy's okay. They have the scare where she gets bit by the Cerberus in episode 1. They make you think that she's dead or dying. They then go on to reveal that she's not dead, that she's actually part of Umbrella now. So now you've got a whole new slew of questions because you felt bad for this young girl who's trying to escape this evil corporation. And then you find out in the last 2 episodes, she's actually basically the shadow Hokage. She's the shadow figure behind the head of the organization, Evelyn. She has taken over, drugged Evelyn up, and basically made her a puppet. So for giving such a fleshed out, great backstory, making young Billy vulnerable, making young Billy somebody that you felt bad for, that you actually wanted to see good things happen to, and then they flip the script and give you adult Billy, who is just very continuity strong, where she's still angry at her sister for always being the selfish one. She's still angry about what happened to her, but she's no longer playing the victim in her adulthood. She's now taking control and trying to do everything she can to be in control of her own destiny. So at number 5, it was the fear of the T-virus. At number 4, it is Billy. I think they did an incredible job with both young and adult Billy. Moving right into number 3 now, it is got to be some of the aesthetics. Just take a look at these. You've got the Cerberus right here above me that you see in episode 1. It looks so good. It looks so incredibly close to Resident Evil 1's Cerberus, the picture you saw in the old magazines when they debuted that character. I love the way the skin is rotting off. I love the ears kind of gnawed away. The jowls being revealed. Beautiful job there. The T-002 Tyrant, the one that you see right here next to me, that is a spitting image. My God, all they had to do was add a little computer and then Barry Burton and Jill Valentine right in front of him to make it look like the T-002 from the original Resident Evil 1 video game. The big claw hanging down, suspended in that stasis tank. I thought it was masterfully done. And that last one, that top right picture you see over there, the inside of the lobby for the Umbrella Laboratory, clean, sleek. The lights that brighten the room are in the shape of the Umbrella logo. It's so picture perfectly done. They did great set design, great creature design, great aesthetic design. It was really well done. I thought they did a great job. It made you feel more immersed in this world, made you more believing in what it was that Umbrella is, how they act, and what they are in this world. Next, I think this might actually be my favorite thing in the series. Number one is a very, very close race with number two. Number two, the second best thing that happened in this series was the gentleman that played Albert Wesker. Lance Reddick did a fantastic job of being Albert Wesker. He had a tall task. He had to take a very established character, then take the vision of those writers, of those room of people that are trying to build a storyline, be able to weave certain elements together, but still create a beautiful artistic interpretation. What Mr. Reddick was able to do with Albert, with Bert, with Albie, and even the OG Wesker, the original that cloned himself, was nothing short of phenomenal. There were 4 different people in that room, and I get it. They're supposed to be clones of him. Each one has little personality traits, little ticks, little differences, and he did it masterfully. I thought the character was well built. It's the first time we saw an Albert Wesker that wasn't physically dominating, physically intimidating. We got to see a corporate Albert Wesker that used his pull within the corporation to get what he wanted done. We also got a human side to him. He now had daughters, and while he relied on those daughters to stay alive, he also very well cared for those girls, gave those girls a life, wanted them to be happy and to feel like just your average teenage girls in living in this world. Thank you so much to Lance Reddick. I really think he did a fantastic job here playing as Albert Wesker, doing the best that he could with having the pre-established mixed in with what the writers wanted. He created a concoction that, to me, I think was the second best part of this series. It was a good, different take. I thought he did it phenomenally. And my favorite thing, it had to be the Easter eggs. There's too many to count here. Too many to go through. But 4 of my favorite Easter eggs from this show, right there in episode 1, right above my head, the B4, it is the same basement level that the Tyrant, the T-002, was held on in Resident Evil 1. That's where they were doing their primary experiments. That's where Albert Wesker's lab was, all the way in basement 4. Good little touch right there with that Easter egg. Right over to this side of it, you see Dr. Salvador. I used to call him the bag man because he just had a bag on his head with the chainsaw. Resident Evil 4, one of the most terrifying villains. The first time I ever saw him, I was flabbergasted. I was taken aback. Then, of course, to try to tie in more game lore, they bring in that VCR recording of the original Raccoon City with Lisa Trevor. Right there. Still got the stitched faces as a mask pulled over her own head, locked up in chains. So another Easter egg tying in the original lore of the video games. And then Mr. Baxter, when they're escaping the Brotherhood, he gets the Red 9. He goes on a killing spree. He even has a moment where he kind of rests it on his shoulder like Leon does in Resident Evil 4. So for me, the number one best thing about the Resident Evil Netflix series is just the huge number of Easter eggs that they used to try to tie it in to the game series, to the lore, to everything that those of us that have played all those games, read all those books, we'd be able to point at and be like, hey, I get that reference. It'd be a Captain America from Avengers moment. I get that reference. So there it is. My 5 things I think Resident Evil from Netflix did right. It got canceled after 1 season, but that doesn't mean they didn't do something good. They didn't produce things correctly out of this series. I think that those things, if you look back on the series, if you watch it in a year, watch it in 2 years, if you can find it, whatever it may be, I think you'll be able to look back a little bit more fondly because it isn't an artistic interpretation. They did try to put a spin on some things, and you've got to give some leeway to people that want to do that want to try to take something that's pre-established, put a little bit of spin on it, try to make it for either a different audience, a new audience, try to interpret it a little bit differently. I loved these 5 things from Resident Evil's Netflix series. Number 5, the fear of the T-virus. Number 4, I really do believe that Billy Wesker was done just outstandingly. Young Billy, you felt sympathetic for. Adult Billy, you're curious as to why she had the turn that she had in personality. They give you a little bit of an explanation for it in the final episode, but you know it was setting up for whatever a season 2 could have shown you. Number 3, it had to be the aesthetics. The little details. The Cerberus looking great. The gator that was behind the university boat. The T-002 Tyrant in the stasis tank. The way the lab was set up. Number 2 had to be Lance Reddick and the way he interpreted Albert Wesker. Thank you so much to him. I think he did a phenomenal job with that character. Doing something with that character we've never seen before. And number 1, it had to be the Easter eggs. Every little thing that tied us back to the story and the games that, like me, I grew up with. So I love that they did very much put a lot of those little things and a lot of those little head nods, a lot of those little wink, wink, nudge, nudge to all the things that we grew up with or that we've played and loved. So there it is, my 5 things again that I think Resident Evil from Netflix did right.